Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for listening. I'm Marilyn Hawes, and I'm with Unprecedented TV for my show Heart and Soul, and you can find us on YouTube. I'm also CEO of Freedom from Abuse, which is a charity seeking to prevent child abuse and any abuse existing in society by identifying behaviours, and there's all too much of this toxicity. For Heart and Soul, I'm inviting anyone with a story of lived experience to tell who wants to come on as my guest. It doesn't matter how gritty or difficult it is, we can get through it together. And I just think some of these situations, we have to give them oxygen. And, you know, everybody has a charmed life. So if you have a situation you wish to discuss, please contact Unprecedented and come on my show. And yeah, I think it's really important that we kick the elephant out of the room. And so my lovely guest today is the lovely Jean Rochford, and we've known each other quite some time, and she has got a gritty story to tell. So here we go.
Hello
Jean, and welcome.
Thank you.
So let me just describe Jean at the moment. She's a very resilient, feisty lady, which she wasn't when I first met her. I'm hoping today, because Jean has tremendous resilience and strength, and I'm hoping today she's going to encourage anyone that is in a similar situation to her to find the strength and the hope to disclose. Now, let me just, we'll get into that in a minute, but let me just, Jean, can you remember how we met and when? I can't remember.
Yeah, I can. And I think it was late 2016. I see you on the TV.
That's 9 years ago.
You were speaking up for Andy Woodward.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Now, my experience up till then was I'd written to many MPs, prime ministers, with what we now know is just static letters, and there's no hope in ever writing to any prime ministers because they don't want to know. And by the looks of it, yeah, they're hiding it as well. So, and I just happened to walk through my living room and you were on the news, defending Andy Woodward, because Eric Bristow had, he called him names and said it's about time he manned up and all the same sort of rubbish that a lot of men get said to them. And you had obviously been brought on. And you stopped me in my tracks because I'd heard nobody speak about what happened to me in that manner. And after you finished, I took down your charity number and telephone number because it was out there. And I put it in my phone and I didn't use it for 2 weeks. I had to pluck up courage to use it for 2 weeks. And I wondered whether I should call you, which was the best way of getting hold of you without being rejected, because we just get rejected so many times. And that was the thought in my mind. And that's what took me a fortnight to actually contact you. And I decided that texting was the easiest for me to have a rejection. But you didn't reject me. You came straight back.
I'll never forget that day, Jean. Actually, I now remember it. I was actually standing on the landing with a laundry basket by your phones. And let's just explain 1 minute about Andy Woodward. Andy Woodward, with a lot of other footballers, came out and disclosed their abuse by Barry Bennell when they were young footballers training with the academy. And I was furious, and I had been helping quite a lot of them, hadn't I? And I went on Piers Morgan's show. Oh my goodness, I'll never forget it. And that's right, Eric Bristow told them to man up, didn't he? That man up and stop whinging, get on with it or something. And then I was sat in the wings, and Piers Morgan said, "Well, what would you say to Marilyn Hawes?" And Marilyn Hawes said to him, "If you were near me now, I'd stick those darts where the sun don't shine." Do you remember?
No, I didn't hear that bit, but I just heard that you were defending him. And it was just, I walked through my living room and you were on the news, and it just stopped me in my tracks. And when you've got kids, you don't necessarily take too much notice of the news, do you? You're busy. But it stopped me in my tracks, and it's the first time, and I don't know how, I was knocking on a bit then, probably in my 60s then. So to have gone all that time, Yeah, without hearing somebody positive sticking up for somebody who was a child when this happened. It wasn't their fault, and they weren't being judged. They were being supported and defended.
Can I go ask you, Jean, if you're happy to do this? Can we go back into your childhood? Because for the listeners, Jean was sexually abused as a child by, was it one brother or two?
Two siblings.
Two siblings, which is not pleasant at all. So, Jean, if we can go back to your childhood, how many siblings did you have?
I had 11 siblings, but one didn't survive childbirth. It was stillborn. Yes, so I ended up with 10 live siblings.
And of that, one sister, three sisters, what was the mix?
There was there was 7 girls and 3 boys that survived. The child that died was a boy.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, I can't imagine having that many brothers and sisters. I mean, and are they all alive now? Oh no, they're not.
No, they're not quite. Yeah, there's 4 died.
Oh, it's dreadful. And I know you were very close to your sister Viv, weren't you?
Yes.
And how old were you? Can you remember how old you were when you were first
assaulted? I can't remember the exact date, but I know it was after 5 because we didn't move down to where I lived most of my life till after I was 5, between 5 and 6. But like a lot of, and I've listened to quite a few survivors, and we had those sort of ages, and we can't actually pinpoint. And it's because our brain, and now I know, our brain was not in a place to actually access that data. I can't access that data that well because my brain wasn't developed enough to actually file my memories in the way that you are after you've turned 7.
And also, when you're 5 and 6, you just don't really understand what's going on, do you?
No.
You know, I mean, here she is. Which one are you here, my love? Which one are you?
So I'm in the middle. And those 2 boys sexually abused those 3 girls.
Oh my God! Oh, so 3 of the girls were abused.
Yeah.
Oh my word! And did you talk to each other about it as girls?
No, because it wasn't. We didn't know what it was.
No.
And even today, youngsters, as you will know, because you go into schools, they don't know what it is. They know they don't like it. And but no, we never. And we didn't speak until it was really. I spoke to my sister Janet. She came back from America because she died at 40. So it was that was just before she died. And she came back to England to see us with her children. And I decided to have a day with her. And that was the very first question I asked her because I knew she was with me. But you do actually think, is my brain playing tricks on you? Because of what you're said by people around you, if you ever dare speak up about it, you are shut down and silenced. And isn't it time you got over it? Are you sure that it's... So people can actually make you think that your memory is not what it really was.
Yeah,
and I did spend a day with her. Yeah, I spent a day with her.
And so in that photograph we've just seen, how old were you then?
I think I must have been about 5-ish there. Yeah.
And it would have started by then?
No, I don't think it had started by then. I don't even know where that picture was taken. And as you can see, back in the day, we didn't have many pictures taken. And it was, and if you look at those, nobody's smiling. And that's how they had school photos. So was that a school? I really don't know. I just know that was in my mother's album. And I took a copy of it because there is so many of us. I knew I wouldn't get them. Yeah.
So you never told anyone then? You never told? I mean, so your sister that
didn't know what it. Yeah, didn't know what it was. Nothing was spoken about it, and even right up until in sort of getting on sort of 18, 19, 20, the only people that were talking about it was people like Jim Davidson, who would come to Norfolk and joke about incest, really. like they did and people would laugh at it then.
I
I don't
know.
think they would so much now, but it was regarded as a joke, really. And
Yeah, of
they
course.
used to do that in Cornwall as well, I understand.
Yeah.
Well, I did go and see him once, and he was funny apart from telling those jokes. And I didn't find it funny, but then you get called a miserable cow. And because you haven't spoken about it, you haven't even faced it yourself, you end up laughing at yourself because you don't want to be found out.
Well, you sort of find a coping mechanism, don't you, really? And
Shut it
because
off.
you don't want to give the game away, because if you know, one little wrong comment and you only need somebody quite sharp to say, what was that you said? What did you mean? So Janet was 40 when she passed away, which is very sad.
Yes.
And your sister Viv passed away, didn't she, a year ago?
Yes, a year ago.
Talk to her about it. Did you open
Yeah,
up?
yeah, I did. That was only when I was 63, I think it was. Or, well, I went to the doctors at 51 because I had been suffering for about 2 years with emotional problems. And it took me 2 years before I went there. And my doctor told, because he knew me, we lived in the same village, and he knew me. His kids went to the same school as mine, went to the sports days with their kids, and I would be with my kids. So he knew me, but he was my GP. And when I went to him and asked him, because I didn't know why I was feeling like I was feeling, and I said to him, "Is it because I was sexually abused as a child by my brothers?" And he told me more or less that I'd got 2 successful sons, which I had. I was still married, which I was, and to go away and get on with it. But I still had enough strength to know that if it was, I needed to see a counsellor, and because I am very fear-based. I carry fear really easy, and I'm trying to suss people out whether they can be trusted. And so I wouldn't just go to an ordinary, just pick up a phone book and call one, because I don't know what I want to start with and how do I trust them. So I went to a professional, because we were brought up to believe professionals, and ask him for one. Well, he did actually give me one, and he gave me the name of a counsellor and the telephone number, but you also gave me the advice that if I ever used it, I would be worse off than I am now. So do you think I actually used that number?
What a strange thing to say.
Yes.
It's a really strange thing to say.
Stayed on my fridge. Yeah. It stayed on my fridge for 5 years and I never used it.
I mean, I know with my own situation, I mean, with my children, I mean, I had 8 therapists, as you well know, and they were all pretty useless. And then I found the Thrive program, which you also went on. But I think the trouble is, I think a lot of counsellors, they take you back to where you don't really need to be, because it's gone, it's happened. You're left with the dross that's left over from it. That needs sorting. But going back into, so was it dark? Was it 6 o'clock in the evening? Where was your brother? All that sort of stuff. And what did your mum say? I don't think that sort of counselling helps at all.
Well, I never got to that. Yeah. I never went there. And that actually delayed me for 5 or 6 years, because I then joined a group. But why I joined the group is because back in the day, we used to have local newspapers, and they would be doing like events. And this particular lady had started up a group for people who'd been sexually abused, because her daughter had been sexually abused by somebody prominent in the town, and there was no help for her. So she and another lady set it up. But she had a little advert or a little article in the paper saying, with faces of all these people, but it just said volunteers and survivors of childhood sex abuse group, Stop Start group. But that was really done cleverly, because that was before even Jimmy Savile was actually spoken about, because a lot of these ladies who were attending this had children, And if that had been out in the paper that she was a survivor and she was a survivor, the children actually then knowing society and how society actually treats us, they treated us then and still treat us now. They want silent and not to say anything about it, and we're made to feel it was us that did it. But I could see their faces and I trusted them. And so I went along to this group and I never went back to that doctor. Yeah, but it was the women there, and I didn't speak for 2 years at this meeting, when I met these people. But I learned a lot. I learned not to go to the police. Every single person who'd gone to the police had real, not very good stories to tell, in my view. And I was then coming up into my 60s, 61 probably. And why would I want to go and spend time and waste emotion over a force, the police force, if I was never going to get any help. So I never went to the police.
I think it's difficult for them in one sense, but I mean, it also could be laziness in some senses. I mean, you didn't know about your sisters, so there's just little you. And the thing is, that's why I think, people need to come forward as soon as possible. That's why I'm hoping today, doing this show, people will think, well, crikey, this lady can do it at her age, I can do it now. I think you don't realise that anything more than a year is historic abuse. So it's very difficult, isn't it, to get the forensics and to get. So the first thing you should do, I had someone the other day who was raped at a works party, and rang me, and I said, you've got to go straight to the SARC Sexual Abuse Referral Centre, get yourself swabbed ASAP, because if you really want to nail these people, that's what you have to do, isn't it?
Yes.
Because otherwise, at your age, if you have to go right the way back to your medical records, don't you? Right the way back to your school records. So, I mean, and also, was there anything about your schoolwork that changed when you were carrying this trauma?
I think you've got to think back to, because I'm a bit older than you, and where we lived, we went to a small school, and really, because I come from so many and I'm one of the top slaves, I call myself one of the top slaves because that's what we were. We were not expected to have an education, really. We were expected to have children. This was what we were being brainwashed. The government and people in society is all they've got to do is brainwash one generation, and it can leak into another. I don't know if that's why my mother had all those children, because so many men got killed in the war, didn't they? So
of course, yes.
And so whether we were told if by the time you were 21 you needed to be married and you needed to have children, and you had so much pressure from family and society that that's what you did. And if I speak to anybody of my generation, they always quote that quote as well. So I know it's not just me, it is my generation. I
think it is, because
so we weren't really regarded as very much. And also, when you come from a big family, especially in where I lived, it was regarded as something, oh, don't bother with them type of thing. And that judgment was made by teachers. I know that. If you had a brother that was what they regarded as a bad boy, you would get tarred with the same brush all the way down.
And that often happens today.
It did happen in my day.
Well, Jane, I've seen it in schools. I have actually seen it in schools. And some of the language in a staff room, and I'm going in there as a guest speaker, and the way they actually do sort of talk about children is actually disgraceful. And I went into a school not so long ago, about a year ago, and I was talking with what they termed as the difficult children. Well, they're not difficult. Something's happened to them. So I was talking to them, and I said, so who wouldn't you tell? And they were the teachers, because when we go past the pastoral care room, we hear them talking about us. No, that shouldn't happen. And I mean, and that was only a year ago, and it's horrible. It's so toxic. I mean, so did you ever want to sue your brothers, like take them to court?
Well, again, you see, I was then 63, 64. And when I joined that group, there was a charity that had just started up, and it was really good, run by a really good person, and who started it up in a really good way. And you had a year's counselling. And they never asked me or told me, but they would actually come to the group, Stop Start group, once every now and again, and they were giving us education about what's happened to us, and they would be helping us by feeding us some education. And I noticed that the girls were going for counselling there, and their head, because their heads hadn't fallen off or their arms didn't break, which was the fear that my doctor put in me, that I would be worse off than if I went. So I decided to go, and I have to say that particular counsellor was brilliant for me. She didn't ask me all those dark questions like that, but she educated me about inner child and stuff like that. And she got me to look at a lot of things visually, and I started to gradually learn. But because we're now offered, is it 6 weeks or 12 weeks? I should think by the 12th week, she barely knew my name, because I have to trust them.
But
funny enough,
I always think with therapy as well, that when you're going through, I mean, 12 weeks is actually, you've hardly scratched the surface, have you really? Because the trauma in your brain blocks some of the memory until the brain considers you're in a safe place. And I'm always saying this to the police when you're doing a timeline. No point saying, oh, well, that's not what you said last time. You know, you could have 12 goes at a statement, couldn't you, before you get a proper correlated a timeline. And the police are still very, I think, in the dark ages about it. And I think sometimes they want to bat it across the social services when actually a crime has been committed here. What's that got to do with social services at this point? I mean,
and also
your journeys. I mean, how do you find? Because I know we'll come on to this in a minute. I know you also, we're going to move on to other things that you've done. But how do you still find the police with that attitude? And what about social services? How do you find them now?
I never got involved with social services, but I do through some other charity work I do. I personally don't trust them. I think they call this integrated care. I don't see that it's integrated. There's just so many versions, and it'll be the strongest person's version, and they all want to get away. And they don't write down what the person's saying. It's their interpretation. I mean, I'd advise somebody to take a camera, personally.
Oh, absolutely.
Because with the people I've been in, sorry.
There's no joined up thinking, is there? They work in little silos, which is absolutely awful. So how old were you when you got married?
21. which is really, I'm a child, isn't it? So this was the indoctrination. This is the indoctrination that the government did in that day. They're doing different this time, but this is what they did in my day. And so you were frightened if you didn't get married by the time you was 21, you'd be left on the shelf.
Oh my God, it's an awful thing though, isn't it? Absolutely dreadful. I mean, really dreadful. So this is going to be a bit personal. You don't have to answer it. You really don't. But I imagine, and I know from one of my own boys, this happened. And did you find being intimate with your husband difficult?
I think because I hadn't had a boyfriend before he was my first boyfriend, I suppose he led. And so and I think I'd locked that all away, because I spent most of my childhood trying to hide it. And I think really that's why I'm vocal now, because I've spent so much time hiding it. I don't hide anything now, because I just find it's not beneficial to me. It's only beneficial for people who don't want to hear the truth, or have done it themselves, and they've got their own issues about it.
That's absolutely right. I mean, that's why you've been on this amazing trajectory it's incredible what you've achieved. I mean, so when did you tell your husband? Did he just like find out 20 years later, or what happened?
So when I got to about 40ish, I went to this small
40,
company.
right.
Yeah, no, because I was pestered to have children, because you was expected to have children, and I did put it off till I had my first child at 24. I refused to have children in London because it was such an awful place to have children if you weren't rich. And I'd seen how his brother's children had to live, and I didn't want to live like that. So we moved back to Norfolk, and I had my first child at 24. And then I didn't want children. I have to say, I didn't want children. But again, society, pressure, I'm a pleaser. And so I had Paul at 24 and Andy at 25. So I said, if I was going to have any, I wanted to, and I wanted to quick, because there's 18 months between a lot of my mother's children. And I just thought, I suppose really I was getting it out of the way, in a way.
Yeah. No,
Just,
I can
doing what I'm supposed to do, just getting it out of the way. They are the joy of my life. So, it was something I didn't want, but I was pressured into having it. And I don't feel I should feel guilty about saying that, because I have met a lot of women, and I've done some research with King's College, and they were finding now the generation, because one of the maternity people did research for a PhD and found that the next generation of women were choosing not to have children. And I have to say, the young people in my group who have disclosed, they're choosing not to have children.
Is that, do you think, because the world is in such a mess, or is it directly a result of your abuse? Because, as we all know, there's no actual dignity when you're giving birth, and you've got all these doctors and men sort of putting their hands everywhere. Would that be a reason you didn't want them, or you didn't want to have anyone that might be like what you'd gone through or suffer like you have?
I think it's the responsibility of keeping them safe. Because then you're keyed in. I was put in charge of keeping my sisters and brothers safe, so yes. I was already keyed into that. Besides my own sex abuse, which you are heightened to a different level, because your brain is now instinctively is aware of men. Really, it's a male that sexually abused me, and it's males that your brain will tell you they could be they might not be safe.
Yes, so you're hypervigilant.
Yeah, I was hypervigilant. Yeah. So my idea was to keep them safe, really. But also, what part of you has to be examined and pushed and pulled about when you're having a child? Why would you want that?
No, I agree. It's not.
And also, that research was done before. This is the research I did was probably 10 years ago. So although the world has never been that brilliant, it wasn't like it is now. So that research was done quite a few years ago, and this is what she found.
And that's come to pass, hasn't it, really? I mean, so having been abused by two boys, you had two boys, did that send you like a rabbit up the hill?
No, but again, because I hadn't really acknowledged it. Still, again, at that point, I was now busy keeping my children safe. So my feelings were shut off yet again. And I did have a young lady in my garden about 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and she knew I had two sons, and she said, I want to ask you a question. So I said, go on then. She said, I want to have a child. She said, but I don't want to have a boy. Because her brother had sexually abused her.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Was it the sins of the fathers are meted on, that sort of attitude? But I mean, it really does screw your mind up, doesn't it? Really,
Yeah.
it really does. I mean, you can't. I mean, your childhood is gone. You can't think all those childish things and those things like that. I mean, so did you ever let anyone babysit?
No.
No. Yeah.
No.
You don't. Yeah. No. There's a lot of people.
No. And that's what I mean. It's quite exhausting. And I did send Paul to an innovation club, and he did go round this guy's house to make the Houses of Parliament, because they were going to burn it on bonfire night or firework night or something like that. And I actually went back to him a bit later and asked him, because the innovation club was good for him because he's dyslexic, and this guy was helping him with his confidence, really. So that has always been a concern of mine, because they're not always in my care, because they're at school.
Exactly.
And they go and do sports and things like that. They're not always in your care, are they? And
no,
I've learned now that an alcoholic goes to a pub, and anyone who wants to get access to children will go anywhere where there's children. So
exactly right. It's a natural fit, isn't it? I mean, they're not going. If you want to abuse children, you're not going to work in an old people's home, changing tents. You'll change nappies instead. And I think there's an awful lot of I'm not saying ignorance in that. I mean, lack of knowledge. Put it that way. And the lack of knowledge is because people actually don't want to hear it. It's the three wise monkeys, isn't it? Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. I mean, so do you ever look back and think, with all this that have happened to my life, how might it have been different? I mean, I know we don't know, but how might it have been different? I mean, did you marry the right person? Were you looking for someone that was I don't know what I'm saying here really, but I'm just wondering if you look back and think, if that hadn't happened, I would have been a different person or whatever. I'd have liked to have done this or done that. Do you ever think that?
Not really, because you can't change it. I certainly would have been a different person. But having all this happen to me, probably a bit like you in a way, has given me the strength. But that has only come because I have had help. And you were the first person to heal, but then you know what it feels like for somebody to take notes of you and get you, and then you know what you're looking for in another person, and you know when they're trying to silence you. And it's actually all a growing process, really, a healing process. Because
a lot of people want to gaslight, don't they? When they don't really want to hear what once you drop that bomb in their life, like, well, this happened to me. I always say to people, and this is something you've absolutely done, that if somebody discloses to you, you're in for the long haul. You can't just go, I don't want to hear that. And you've been very good at that. Very good at that. Did you think that now you know your sisters, do you know how their impact of all this was?
Yeah, we all married a similar sort of guy, really.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which were dominant. Again, back in the day, a lot of the fathers came home from war, and a lot of the fathers, fathers rather, came home from war, didn't they? And domestic abuse has been around for years, but it's not been talked about like childhood sex abuse. And so, they're all very dominant, and I think that generation of men were a bit like that in a way, that he did what he was told to do.
Let's think about my dad. I mean, he did all the finances, he did this. There were sort of set paths for them, weren't they? Dad did this, mum did that. But then I think, to some extent, I think it's gone bonkers. I think there's too much women's lib now, that men have been emasculated, really, that they don't know where they belong in society, which is another whole conversation. But let's fast forward to you. When I first met you, it was up in Norfolk, wasn't it?
Yes. And that wasn't the first time, because
no, that's not the first time. No, but
the first time was when you met the mayor.
That's right. That's right. So this is your, if we can have that graphic in a minute again, please. Oh, yes, there we go. These are all things that Jean has done. So when I first met you, you were like, you were so closed, you know, your body was closed. You were sort of like, you really looked like a little dormouse. I'm not being rude, but
no,
you did.
You're correct.
And then you got into this, and 6 months later I met you again. I walked past you because you had like blossomed, and like, wow, look at the change. You had your hair done, you were wearing makeup, and you just looked like you'd grown 6 inches. It was extraordinary. And then you began working with me, setting up a whole string of events, didn't you? Which takes some doing, because you've never had to pick up the phone like that before. So what was the first one we did? I can't remember.
Well, the first thing we did was in Tesco's. They had a community centre back in the day, and you steered me. I had to bring up all these schools, and you never got no. And you were really good, because you'd say, well, so and so, one of your other volunteers had found a way in through like this or like that or like that. So you was always giving me options of what I could do. You never told me what to do, but you was always giving me options that you'd found out some of your other volunteers that actually found a way into schools, because you can't find a way into schools very easy.
Can't do that.
And I got police there. I got social services there. There was a couple of teachers, but that was through somebody who knew somebody. Those people from the actual college there. And yeah, so it went, and I got the 20 people that you wanted.
I know you did. And the mayor came, didn't she?
Yeah, she was very. I found that women, if the mayor is a woman, she I've had 2 from King's Lynn that have actually supported me. She was being the first one.
Yeah. I mean, it is hard to get. I don't think people realise, to get 20 people, you have to make something like 150 calls, don't you?
I think that was more than that.
I think it was actually, from memory. I think it was more like 300 actually. So then you, before you branched off into another thing that we're going to talk about, you then did a bike ride, and I think we've got a photo.
Because what happened then is you allowed me into some of the schools you got in, and I was blown away by how you spoke to the children, how the children actually reacted to you. And you wanted to do a thing where you educated mothers and kids about the dangers of the internet. And this is way back, isn't it? This is quite a few years. And I managed to get a place for nothing. You came for nothing. And I think the first place we went was to Knight's Hill Hotel, and that's because I used to work for them. They gave me that, and it was really successful, wasn't it? And
we got about.
Oh, she's dropped out.
I think she's still there, but it's not.
Oh, she's upside down.
Oh, sorry. No, I know. No, it wasn't me. A phone call came through that I muted. It drives me mad. So carry on, so we can carry on.
Yeah. So I think we got
a bag picture, by the way. I can't see a bag.
There was one of her on a bike.
Anyway, I'll find it. Put it on after.
Yeah, I'll put it on later. Okay. So you did this bike ride, and I can remember at the time, wherever we went, we had a problem, didn't we, with having a projector.
Yes.
And the screen, and we were always scrabbling around trying to say, anybody got a screen? Anyone got a projector? So it was quite a huge amount of money you raised.
Yes, 1,400.
That's right. That's right. Incredible.
Yes.
Absolutely incredible. So, I mean, you have been on, I think you have really made it your mission, not just to help other people, but you've been on the massive, huge learning curve yourself. And like me, you like the word heal. I don't like the word recover. I think recover makes you feel under pressure, whereas we can all heal, you know. And I really do feel like that. So that heal one, and you have healed. I've seen you heal. I've seen you heal and grow and blossom right in front of me. And you are my best project. But you then you were then part of the Truth Project, weren't you? Which was part
Yes.
of, anyone who doesn't know it, ICSA, the Independent Inquiry for Child Sexual Abuse. And could you speak about the Truth Project?
Right. So I was struggling, and my son rang me up, my younger son, because I did actually tell my sons when they were 16 or 17 never about consent to a woman, and I was castigated by Alan about that, saying that I will damage them. So I actually thought I would damage them because I'm not a male. But and I was struggling, and Andy rang me and told me about the Truth Project. And I rang them up to see it, and they said the police will be involved, because once you disclose, that was really more strict. If somebody disclosed, you had to tell the cops. And so I said, no, I'm not doing it. I wouldn't do it because I had to go to the police. I've been doing some other events where I used to take your freedom from abuse stuff, and I met this guy who's one of my portraits as well, and we went to Great Yarmouth, and he was given a talk, and this lady see freedom from abuse, and she waited 10 minutes to come and speak to me, and we hugged for 10 minutes. Oh. And it's because she'd met somebody who'd been sexually abused, and there I was standing there with your stuff, and she knew that she could come and talk to me, and we met in Norwich a bit later, and she said that's what she was going to do, and I said, oh, I was going to do that, but I don't know, you've got to go to the cops. I'm not going to the cops. And she sort of persuaded, because she was a lot younger than me, and I was thinking, well, why is it that she dare go and I daren't? So I went ahead and did it, and you could have done it via different ways, but I went to London to do it. So and I did have to speak to the cops, but it had slightly changed there. They rang up, but you didn't only had to say, I mean, I've got whatever it is, a number that they gave me, but I didn't have to do anything about it. It was my choice that, but it just the cops scared me, and so that was the reason I wouldn't do it in the first place.
So just explain the purpose of the Truth Project was.
So the purpose of it started off within homes, children's homes, and then it went into churches, so places where there was children attended, and a lot of it was children's homes. But then it started to develop that, whether you were sexually abused when you was in your own home, and so they extended it. It got extended to quite a lot of things. But it started off with like children's homes.
And the people that attended were pretty much your age, weren't they, and older?
Oh, we never see one another. I tell you what, that was the first place that I went to that actually treated me in the right way. They always checked up on me. They always advised me. They never bullied me or pushed me in any direction. They asked me where I wanted to sit. They told me everything was my choice, and it just felt really, really comfortable. And it felt so comfortable, as you know, I went back and helped them with research, and we went to the forums, which was really beneficial to me. Yeah. And again, they were run really, really well. For me as a survivor, I know how I felt going into those places.
Exactly.
And I didn't feel threatened. I didn't feel bullied. I didn't feel silenced. I didn't feel any of those things. I met people there that brought me out.
And I think that's what is bringing somebody out of the shadows, isn't it? I mean, I speak to so many people who have been abused, and even with my own son, one of my 3 boys, is the isolation that you feel.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And I was with
one of you that is like locked away, that no one knows, and you will avoid situations where I saw him do it. I've seen it. It's hot. Yeah. And feeling isolated is horrible. You don't feel you belong, do you?
No. I call that, if somebody makes me feel isolated, that's alarmed aloneness, which takes me straight back to where I was when I was being sexually abused, because I was too young to know what was happening, and I was on my own, and that's where I stayed.
It's a horrible place to be. It is. I mean, I always think, when people say, oh, being alone is not the same as being lonely. I mean, I can remember before I got divorced, there were sort of 6 people in the room, with my 4 kids, and But I felt lonely. I felt lonely because
Yeah.
nobody really sort of understood. Now we're moving on a bit now. Oh yes, Jean, come on, drop me in it. Tell us about because I came to you with one meeting, didn't I?
Well, yeah. So I was invited to the forum, and I just thought it was such a good place, and I could have a companion. That's how they treated you. You could have a companion. But the first one I went to, I went on my own, and I thought, why waste this? And I knew Tina, and I knew you, and I think he came as well. I knew these people that were helping people who'd been sexually abused. Why waste this rich environment? And so I invited you to come, and it was quite a heavy day. But you were involved quite a lot, weren't they? They didn't actually exclude you. You were my companion, but we had to speak first. You couldn't say anything till the survivors had said their bit, and we came out and we went into the nearest pub, didn't we? We had one glass of wine, which was rather large, actually, wasn't it? And then we had another one.
Then we had another.
And we went down we got on the tube, and we see the same places twice, didn't we?
we were going round and round the circle line. Do you remember?
You said, we passed this once before.
We were so blooded. Honestly, I'm not safe to be with. I'm really not. I am very bad influence, Jean. But then I can't remember when this happened as well. But then you had this like epiphany, didn't you? You suddenly like had this like a brainchild, as I say, sort of Damascus experience thing, and you decided. And I don't know how you came up with the idea of doing these things with photos.
So 2018, I broke my arm, and the last event the last event we had is where I got a session for you in the fire station with that police inspector.
That's right.
And I managed to carry that on, even though I got a broken arm. And so that was 2018, and this started in 2019. And I tried to contact men's groups, but they never. So I wanted to get some money to go into the forum. Well, no, it went just to get money so we could actually have a place to meet up, if we could find a place to meet up. So my daughter from another mother, I said to her, should we go to this women's network meeting? And that's where we went. And I was 70 then, and I was telling them what I had been doing, all the stuff that I'd done. And I said, and I'm 70 this year, and I've written to Cock. And what I was going to do is, because they end up fair, don't they? Or it's not like starkers, but then I was going to announce that I was sexually abused as a child, and that doesn't define me. And the lady to my right, I said to her after I'd finished talking, what do you do? And she said, I'm a photographer. So I said, oh, you'd be handy. I said, I'm trying to get a conference set up to have Marilyn Hawes come to Norfolk. I said, but the papers don't come no more now. You have to have photos, and you have to have you have to have photos and write your own story before they'll put it in the newspaper. So she said, I'd rather take a photo of you and my daughter from another mother. And she said, have you got any other survivors? And because I was standing up mainly in Norwich, because nothing really happens in the West Norfolk. There's no places to stand up and speak up, asking, why is it we get no help from the NHS? Because I believed we should at that time. I no longer believe that now, but that is what I believed. And every time I stood up and spoke out, I'd have all these people. I mean, and it was Serena's networking. You came and spoke at one of Serena's dues, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how that started. And then because I get in contact with all these people, some said they'd have their photos taken, and some didn't. And it was Mary Doggett. That's Mary Doggett who took all those photos. She dragged me into so many places. We went to the BNI, and I had to stand up and say my story, hoping to get some help. And the guy who was he designed my flyers for me.
Just tell us about how you came up with the name, because we started with the photographs and Mary's got some fantastic photos she took, and then the people whose photo it was made a little script about their abuse, didn't they?
So that they were able to write their stories. So she took all their photos and they were allowed to write however they wanted to write their stories. So that's how that all started off, and it was called No More. That's what we started off with, No More. And then the forum, who's the comms department, when they did the blurb, they said no more silence, because I was speaking to them, and somebody said to me, well, why don't you just call yourselves No More Silence?
Absolutely.
And that's how that actually come about, that we don't want any more silence about it.
And you have a beautiful logo as well, don't you? It's good. I think my producer's got it. It's a beautiful logo. It's really lovely. I like sort of the use of flowers. And then we went, I remember coming to the first one you did at the forum. There it is. There you go.
Yeah.
Isn't that gorgeous? I think it's lovely as well that you've got like that little yellow bit, that sort of petal that just sort of is dropping off there, like, you know, it's very, I think it's quite emotive, that actually, because it could be a teardrop, it could be that you're shedding the past, it could be anything really, couldn't it? It's quite lovely.
I told the graphic designer, I was talking to one of my other survivors, and I said, well, I feel like I'm a gold chain. I said, and you know how they can break? And I said, and it's broken, and somebody's fixed it, but it's not gone back in a correct round. She said, I think like that as well. She said, but mine is a daisy chain. And when I told him that, that's my friend, my survivor. She was making it.
I think it's a lovely logo. I really do. And I love that, because I think that when we went to where the photograph came up earlier of us together, you managed to get Maggie Oliver to speak, didn't you? Now, Maggie Oliver from the Maggie Oliver Foundation, she's always all over GB News and all this, that, and the other, and she was extraordinary to get hold of her. And because all those people were in the forum, weren't they, having coffee, because there was a cafe next door, and there was Maggie Oliver booming on about child sexual exploitation and the rape gangs and all of that. People were nearly choking on their coffee.
I had actually met her in Norwich. She came to Norwich, so that was before she got. I mean, she would have come to Ardu, but something was happening on the media front. I think to do with the girl who's who she worked with, the three girls. One of the three girls,
Sammy Woodhouse. Wasn't
Sammy, she was going. Yeah, there was this big thing coming out in morning, and she had to travel from Manchester to us. And she said she couldn't do that, but she'd do a Zoom. So that was really kind of her.
That's right. So lots of people come up and speak to you. Out of interest, what would you say the mix is of men to women coming to talk to you, or is it about the same?
Well, funnily enough, we were there 4 days. You were there the first day, and you see how busy it was. But we did have dignitaries there at the time.
Yes.
The Sheriff of Norfolk and things like that. And so all the papers had just shown women, and if you look at the papers on that day, women always dress much brighter than men, because we've got 4 or 5 men in our group. No, it was more men than women, and it's and the newspapers had women in it, and there was mainly women there as survivors. The men came on Good Friday, because most people work, don't they? So it was only women who had part-time jobs, or like me, who were there all the time. But we did, and I think some of them came on the Tuesday, didn't they? There was some males there.
They did, yeah. I mean, so with all this going on, you have to find a way to relax, and you have done something, I think, this summer, which I think is amazing. I really must try it. Go on, what was it?
It's bodyboarding.
Absolutely brilliant. Where did you go?
Yeah.
Where's
bodyboarding? We went to Cornwall, and that's at Polzeath.
Lovely. Yeah. Did you manage to bodyboarding? You lie on the thing, don't you?
Yeah, you have to wait for the wave, and then you have to wait to see whether the wave is strong enough to bring you in.
Oh, right.
It's very good for the mental health.
Well, I sort of did something similar in Bermuda when I went to see my daughter. I nearly drowned. Seriously, I nearly drowned. Well, look, Jean, you've been absolutely amazing. Thank you ever so much for coming on the show. I hope you've enjoyed your time and got everything out there that you wanted to say. Because you've shown, and I do think this is the answer all the time, you have shown so much resilience. And there is Jean in the House of Lords. You see, look at that. With her pictures, I think.
We were allowed to take those because the Health Creation Alliance, which Tina, who's with me, she belonged to, and it was their 10th anniversary, and we were invited to go along to Coin Street first, where I believe there was a couple of hundred NHS workers that went along to there, and then we went on to the House of Lords, and we was allowed to exhibit them there.
Extraordinary. I mean, honestly, an amazing story. When you look back at this interview, I think you'll just see yourself what an extraordinary, nothing stopping you. You are unstoppable, Jean. But I do think the resilience is the thing I go on about all the time. You can find it as an adult. It's better if you've got it as a child and your parents discover it. But I think you can find it. So one last thing, Jean, as we close the show, what message would you like to say to the listeners?
I think please speak out, to find somebody who you trust, and you'll be amazed at how it's the first step is the hardest. It is the first step is the hardest, and sadly you will get knocked back, but don't let it stop you. It made me get louder and louder till I got to a point where I think, actually, Dean, you're a bit too loud now.
Well, I can hear him Woburn. Jean, I wish you, with all my heart, very, very happy Christmas, and enjoy it, and wonderful. And thank you so much for coming on the show. And you have given hope. Your last message there is hope. Don't give up. And always
don't give up.
And they look at you, and you're the inspiration that so many people would want to copy. So thank you so much, and God bless, and have a great Christmas.
You too, and your family. Okay.
So we end there now with the voice of hope coming out of, I would say, the phoenix has risen out of the ashes. As I say, when I saw Jean at the very start, she was honestly like a little dormouse, and there is no stopping her now. And she is absolutely amazing, and very, very approachable, very relatable. So as I say, if you are in this situation, please, or you know somebody else that has, there is hope, there is help. Please follow Jean's example. And anyone that's listened, have a wonderful Christmas, and we'll see you in the new year. Thank you very much. This is Marilyn Hawes with Unprecedented TV on my show, Heart and Soul. Thank you. Have a good time.